It's only my opinion. Coffee milk.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is Coffee Milk. This show is about opinions, guys. We're going to give you our opinions, and we hope to hear yours. My host this week and every other week, not just this one, we have Jake over there. Jake, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Clan. Thank you very much. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing okay. And also with us this week and every other week, Bianca. How you doing, Bianca?
I am just peachy.
I love the backdrop. It's a nice way to embrace the end of summer with some greenery just flickering in the background. Guys, it's an intense week. There's been a lot of really weird news stories. So I guess we're just going to dive right into it, and we're going to head into the topic for this week. And the reason why I chose this topic is because I saw a story out with Lauryn Hill. So the topic this week is discipline, sort of how to discipline your child, and maybe talk a little bit how we got disciplined and sort of compare notes. But the reason why I decided to do this topic is because Lauryn Hill is in the news for disciplining her child. And so I guess her child wrote this whole thing on the experience and the trauma sort of being beaten by a belt, sort of the physical abuse that she had to sort of endure. And so, but the thing that really sparked my interest in this was sort of the response from Lauryn Hill. She did say that, you know, she was okay. She encourages her daughter writing the piece. She said, Celia has every right to express herself. I encourage it, but she also got the discipline that Black children get because we are held to a different standards. And for me, I hated that. Like, I love Lauryn Hill, but to say that she got disciplined, she got beaten because that's what we have experienced and we're held to a higher standards, I don't feel like that's a reasonable... I just don't think it's reasonable to say that or use that as an excuse for the abuse. Yes, we are held to a different standards, but I don't think that we should be held to that standards by our parents, to that high of the standards where we're getting our ass whooped for little things. And as a person who comes from a culture that is very much, you know, belt. What is the saying? Spare the rod, you spoil the child, or some stuff or whatever. Like, my culture, the Jamaican culture, is very much about that. Like, you get ass whippings if you don't do what you're supposed to. So I guess I was brought up in a scenario where I did get my butt whooped. And I guess I would feel a certain way if I talked to my mom about it. I told my mom that I was, you know, I felt a certain way about it. And her response was, well, you know, you're held to a different standard. So, you know, that's what you get. Like, it just seems like there's no heart there, you know? Am I off or...
I'm not sure I understand the whole held to a different standard thing. Explain that to me, because you said that you agree with that. Can you tell me what you mean by, like, what that's supposed to mean?
What do you mean that? Well, I don't say that I agree. I agree that Black people are held to a different standards.
Okay,
I'm not agreeing.
What do you mean by that?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, in society, basically, is what I mean by that. Like, we have to, like, for instance, we'll just go at the simple thing. Barack Obama, for him to be president, he had to have had this kind of education. He had to have been this kind of black man. He's very specific. And then we have someone like a Donald Trump or even a Bush who is just not even that bright or intelligent. So what I agree with her is saying that, yes, we are held by a different, we have to learn to be extra tough because we're held by different standards. We can't just sort of expect things to come to us. You have to be realistic about that. That's the part that I agree with.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's an okay reason to beat your child. And if your child has an issue with it, for you to say, hey, well, you get held by a different standard, so it's okay that I beat you or that I hate you, you know?
I think what Lauryn was trying to say was that since the consequences are so much more severe and immediate for Black children, which is definitely true, she felt that she needed to discipline them with like the utmost severity, so like they learned the first time. I think that's probably what she was trying to say. But I don't think, I mean, if you look at, I was looking at the psychological research before this, and if you look at the research, there's pretty good evidence that, you know, obviously a lot of kids get beat and they grow up fine, but it definitely getting beaten as a kid or getting spanked or whatever as a child, it definitely makes you more likely to engage in kind of impulsive antisocial behavior, which sort of is just the kind of thing that Black people, I think, get punished for more harshly than white people. So, I mean, I don't agree with the argument at all, even though I love Lauryn Hill.
Yeah, I just, she goes on, she has a bunch more things that she said. She said, the discipline was seen through the lens of a young child who also had no place to reconcile me as a mom. And me as a larger than life figure, it took me a while to realize that my children, it took me a while to realize that my children and probably everyone who knew me saw me in this duality. So I feel like there's some things where she does. So I don't feel like she thinks that she was in the right, 100%, right? I don't think she feels like, oh, you know, you get what you get type of deal. But I feel like she's sort of trying to, there's a fighting where she's trying to see it from her child's standpoint, but also that old school Black mentality where like I'm the parent and what I say go is also fighting that. Does that make sense? I feel like both of those things are sort of happening with her. I feel like it's hard for adults and Bianca, so you have a child, right? How do you plan on sort of raising your child? Are you going to be a sort of a punishment sort of mom, or are you going to be a sort of a little slap on the butt type of mother?
I definitely do not plan on hitting my child, period. I can't tell you exactly like how I'm going to deal with different situations. I mean, he's only one. Obviously, right now, everything that he does wrong is cute. And also just like, well, he's one. He doesn't know anything. And I hope to like almost kind of keep that assumption as he grows. Not that he doesn't know anything, but that we all have to realize that children's brains are just not like adult brains, obviously. Right. Like they're still growing, they're still learning things, they act on impulse. Right. I really want to make sure that I validate my son's feelings, because I think a lot of times that parents don't do that. I'm not going to speak badly about my mom. I think she raised me fairly okay. But like there were definitely times where like I didn't feel validated. You know, it's like I think, you know, before you start punishing me, why don't you understand why I'm feeling this way? Why I felt so mad that I needed to like break up whatever. I don't know. I never did any of that shit. But like, why do I feel so sad right now? Like, you know, why am I crying because my cousin took my toy? Like, right. Validate that child. Hey, I get it that it doesn't feel good when somebody takes something that you're enjoying. Mm-hmm. So let's figure out how to deal with that with our bodies. You know, like, first of all, okay, let's kind of relax. And if you can't relax, let's exercise. like, let's go do jumping jacks or something. I actually did that with a kid who was in 7th grade, and I was teaching him. A special ed teacher actually taught me that trick to do like wall push-ups with the kid. Like go over to the wall, start doing, because you need something physically to do with your body. Because that kid would start bugging out, you know what I mean? And I'd be like, all right, what are you feeling right now? I feel angry. All right, well, you want to go do some push-ups? Yeah. You know what I mean? Calm down first. Then
I'm the same way. When I get angry, I just push-ups.
just nice. That's why you're so buff and handsome.
Jake,
Yeah, again.
how were you raised, Jake? Did you get sort of the you're grounded, go to your room sort of situation, or how was your household?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an upper middle class white person from like an northeastern city. So you said you kind of had this, or Cleon said he had the stereotypical Jamaican discipline. I had the stereotypical like white boy discipline.
Your mom counted to 3, didn't she?
Yeah, go to your room.
Honestly, my mom thugged it out more than my dad did. My mom is Italian.
Did you guys sit and have family discussions when you did something terrible? Did you have to like?
So my earliest memories of being disciplined. First, they made me sit on the couch, but then they decided that was too comfortable, so they made me sit on the stairs. So that was about as bad as it got. So I have nothing to complain about. One thing I will say though is that I got a lot of "You won't stop right now." You know, there was a lot of
What? That was a good day if you don't.
No, I'm saying, but what I was gonna say is that if you're getting hit on the regular, if an adult grabs you like that and gets in your face, you're gonna be like, what? You know, you're gonna need to get hit. But since I was never getting slapped around, that shit put the fear of God in me. So yeah, I had it easy growing up. I'm not gonna front. But then again, I mean, in terms of like the racial differences, that's a relatively recent thing because like my mom got hit growing up.
Right.
And my dad got the shit beaten out of him growing up.
Do you think that it affected the way you are as an adult, the fact that you didn't get sort of hit? Do you think it changed anything about who you are now?
Yeah, 100%. It especially in my upbringing, I was always very, very afraid of violence. Like in high school, stuff like that. Obviously, you know, we were all exposed to some like limited violence that you get exposed to in high school. And I was always very, very worried about that, and I never felt comfortable in those situations. And I noticed that my friends who got beaten by their parents were always more ready to throw down. So in retrospect, and then when I kind of involved myself in things like journalism in the Middle East and stuff, when I did have to engage in violence, like at first I was very awkward with it, but over time I sort of saw that there's a change in my headspace about it. And I definitely, yeah, I mean, I think it saved me from a lot of trouble in high school because I never wanted to get in fist fights back then. I was always very afraid of that stuff.
But I don't think that's because like I said, I got beat when I was younger. It didn't make me that made me an angry person. It didn't make me a violent person though. Like I wasn't trying to get into fights with anybody. Okay. You know, but I was quick to like I'm ready to go at any time, but I never tried to initiate any kind of physical, you know, altercation with anybody.
Me neither, but I'm just saying I used to punk out. Like in high school, I would get punked all the time, you know. And that's not, I mean, since I was now like I don't really anymore. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I think I was better back then because oftentimes, like, if you're getting, I hate to use that term, but if you're, as we used to say back then, getting punked, it really means you're being the bigger man and like avoiding a stupid confrontation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely, but you're totally right. Like, I'm just generalizing because as much, I know plenty of people who had their asses kicked by their parents and they're much more well-adjusted than I am. So, you know, I think it makes a difference on the market.
Well, you know what's so hard too is that like I'm not gonna lie, I definitely got some beatings. I did. And not even just by my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, because I lived with my grandmother and my mom in the same house for a while. And then even when we moved out, like I would still go over there a lot. My mom was working, whatever. So it didn't matter. Any of those ladies, if they wanted to beat me, they would beat me. My grandmother.
Did your white grandmother ever hit you?
What?
Did your white grandparents ever hit you?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Exactly. But yeah, I didn't even spend enough time over there for. I don't think anything ever really escalated to that. Like when you live with somebody, it's different. Not that I ever really did bad things. I was a very obedient child for the most part. But regardless, what's weird is that like when you're getting, hit by, your adults in your family or whatever, like you can't hit them back. And when you're little, if you did, you're gonna lose anyway, and it's probably just gonna get you beaten more. And so that's a weird thing when it comes to like growing up and like getting into fights in school. Like I personally never got into fights. I wasn't I'm not trying to hit people. Like I'm just like, hey. And I always felt like I had so much anger in me that if I did hit somebody, like I would try to kill them.
See, that part.
I
That is why,
do that.
Bianca, that is exactly why I try to avoid fights at all costs. Because I feel like, yo, dude, you do not understand how much anger I have in me that I control on a daily basis to not seem insane. Like you just don't want to get into a physical, because once I get to that, I know myself. There's a certain level that I get to where I just go, and it's very animalistic type, deep. So like, I never want to tap into that. That's why I really try my hardest to avoid any physical thing, man. I just don't want to.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like getting beat by like your mom or your grandma, whatever, like it actually teaches you self-control, because like you're definitely like, if I would have touched my grandmother back, oh hell no, I'm coming back with a nub. Like,
yeah. But then that also goes into why some kids then fight, right? Because if people are constantly beating you up at home and you're holding that in, right? When you're at school, someone says something to you, especially someone that's your size. Oh, what? You want to talk now? Like, oh, you want to what? You want to what? I get beaten by my dad. My dad is 6'3". What? You want to talk something? Like so I totally can get the opposite. I can see why both those things. Exactly. So that's why I don't want to think, I don't think it's one or the other. I really think it depends on the person and how they decide to survive after being.
And that's why it makes me, it's annoying to me when people are like, oh, well, I got beat, so I'm going to beat my kids. And it's like, well, you could also just go the opposite direction and not like.
But the crazy thing about humans is they have a very hard time sort of learning from tragedy that happened to them. A lot of the times, humans who've experienced tragedy, they're gonna then do that onto someone else. It's so weird. I don't get it. Like, if someone did something to you and you didn't like it and you understood how unfair it was, why then, now that you have the power, you're then going to do that same thing to someone else? Like, it doesn't make any logical sense, but a lot of abuse, people who are abused, they do the same thing. They pass it on to their kids. They're like, hey, my mom beat me, my dad beat me, I turned out fine. So that means if it turned out fine with me, if I beat my child, it's going to be fine. But it's not fine. It's not. I don't think.
Well, a lot of people aren't willing to do the work and look at themselves and realize that it's actually not fine. And they're like, their anger issues or whatever issues they have stemmed from that. They're like trying to cover it up, kind of,
Emotional.
Okay. We learn from our forebears, like as humans, all these things we have to do are so complicated, and we have no choice but to learn from the people who came before us. And if our parents, taught us how to eat, taught us how to shit, taught us all this, we still love them in most cases. It's kind of hard to be like, nah, they were wrong about that. That's a hard bridge to cross.
Why though? You can still, what is the difficulty with people admitting someone, you can still love someone and care about someone, but admit that the thing that they did to you was wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with admitting that my mom was wrong, but still understanding why she made the decisions that she made. I can have both those going through my mind at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So,
that's mature of you, though. I think that takes a lot of emotional maturity for you to understand that. I think Jake's right, and I think that most people aren't able to do that. Like, they kind of see their parents as all good or all bad, like they're freaking Disney characters or something.
Right. I guess, you had touched on something earlier. I think the one thing that the Black community needs to sort of be in touch with is their emotional intelligence, right? That's something that I had to learn in my early 20s, something that helped me so much sort of control my emotions. It's sometimes we filter everything, all our emotions, through anger. If we're hurt, we feel it through anger. We're sad, it's filtered through anger. All of our complicated emotion, for some reason, always filter as anger. It goes through as anger. And we need to be more aware of, okay, right here, I'm actually sad. I'm not mad. I know I'm like feeling, but I'm actually sad. And when I feel like you're aware of these emotions, then you deal with them appropriately. You deal with your sadness then appropriately instead of getting pissed off. When you're aware, when you're like, oh shit, I am sad right now, then you can go, maybe you need some time to go let some tears out, maybe you need some, whatever makes you feel better. But I think being more emotionally intelligent or aware will help in the fight of sort of, because when you think about it, a lot of the times when our parents like beat us, it's because they might be feeling a different emotion, but they filter it through anger, and then they think the only way to encourage us or discourage us is to then like get physical. So I think that would help. She has a couple more things to say. Let me read you. She says, to me, I am just me. If I am guilty of anything, it's disciplining in anger, not in disciplining. And I agree with that. It's not disciplining, because I think kids do need discipline. But I think you need to do more talking than actual physical. Like physical should be like the last. It should be like the last, so that if it's even brought up, you crossed the line. If it's constantly used, how do you know when you did something really severe, or it's just your mom, dad, whatever, just sort of pissed off? So it's good. Go ahead.
The bottom line is, like, we've known, whenever psychologists or anyone tries to look at the data and crunch it, like, we know that hitting your kids probably on balance, like not with everyone, but on balance, leads to like an increased aggression, antisocial behavior, physical injury, and mental health problems for kids. So like, it just seems like it's like feeding your kids, it's like giving your kids like a little beer with dinner. It's like something we used to do in the past. Like just about everyone used to do that. Yeah. And like, we've just gotten smarter now, and we've kind of figured out you shouldn't do that shit anymore. So yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. And I think Lauryn's but that's the thing. I mean, I didn't read the statement from Lauryn, and she sounds like she's being self-aware and probably want to do it again. And I mean, that's something I think we should all respect.
And also, can we normalize like apologizing to your child too? You know what I mean? Because like, children need to understand that like, your mom like isn't just your mom. Like, she's a human being, or your dad or whatever. They're human beings, and like, maybe they made an impulsive decision at the moment to hit you. You know what I mean? And then they need to go back and apologize. And even if it's years later, like maybe Lauryn needs to go to her daughter and apologize and be like, I'm sorry if this caused you any pain throughout your life. Like, that shit is actually meaningful.
It is. To have your like parents come to you and humble themselves just that little bit and be like, I did this thing. They don't understand it. That goes such a long way. I don't need anything after that. I'm like, what? You recognize that I'm a human, and it's
right.
We good. Like, and it's really much that simple, but it's all about pride, I think, sometimes with our parents. They the old guard, they have their pride is just so it's like, how do you chip away at that when you have lived an entire life where pride has been your shield, where pride has been the thing that's helped you to sort of deal with life? Like, how do you, like, I think about that all the time, because I too want to, like, I too would love to sort of have a conversation with my mom about just life and growing up, and it's just, yeah, it's hard to communicate with someone that has an enormous amount of pride, man. It really is.
And also, like, people, like, I could probably speak on, like, I made a film years ago, so like, I actually know this is true. Like, with my dad, he didn't hit me or anything, but he wasn't a great dad at all. And like, he was saying that I think he was saying that he felt like embarrassed, kind of like he doesn't know what to do next. Like, he didn't know, like, he doesn't even know how, like, when you feel so bad about something, how do I go to this kid and say sorry? That's admitting that I did something wrong. That's making myself super vulnerable. And I'm in a power position, And how are they going to then listen to me further, knowing that I made this mistake? I can't show them that I make mistakes.
But they already know.
Yeah.
We already know.
Right.
You know that you already, that's the whole point. The whole thing is that we're adults and we have adult brains and we have recognized that you're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't come to it, with anyone, if you're in any relationship with anyone, if that person doesn't come in, if they've wronged you, whether it be your friends or your mate, and they wrong you and they don't come to you and tell you that, hey, they recognize that they've wronged you, it's really, I know, like you said, it seems very complicated, but I really think it's so simple. Like, communication that's really all it is. And I'm not saying what you need, but I'm sure if your dad came to you and just sat down and just said those words, I recognize that I was wrong when I made this decision, and
all the decisions. Just say sorry for the life. My bad for the life.
I mean, I think that's what your dad was trying to get at. It's like, I bet just being even in your presence at some points was just so excruciating for him. So he knew he fucked up without getting into too much detail. So like that, I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I have wronged people in my life before. And the impulse is just to avoid those people. You know, right. It's not even apologizing as hard. It's even seeing them across the street makes me feel like I'm going to die, you know?
Yep.
And,
that shit, as simple as it is, as Clyon says, it's actually so hard.
Because of pride. The only thing what makes it hard is because of pride, because you're afraid to humble yourself.
I think it's part of it, but yeah, it's beyond that.
Yeah, it's just being vulnerable is just so hard. Even if you're not prideful, it's just being vulnerable.
But what makes it, okay, let me ask you a question. What makes it hard then? What makes being vulnerable hard? Think about that. What specifically about the act of being vulnerable makes it so hard? It
literally is a feeling in my stomach sometimes, when I'm going into a situation like that. And I agree you should do it, and I pride myself on
it's because you want to be accepted. I learned something today. I was listening to this podcast. It's because humans, right, we want to be accepted into our social group, and so we assume that if we go and we say that we're wrong, somehow the possibility of your community chastising you or putting you out of the community, because we all want to be part of this knit, and we don't want to be, what is the word for being sort of thrown out? I'm sorry?
The out group or a pariah, something like that.
Right, but if you don't want to be thrown out of the group, then and we have this sort of built into us. So that thing that you're feeling is our inner core wanting to sort of belong, and feeling like if we then do this task, then we're not going to sort of belong or be part of the group, and they're going to chastise us and place us out of the group. Sort of. And
also, it's just so scary too. Think about, well, I don't know if this ever happens to you. You guys happen to have great bodies. Well, imagine you're insecure about your body and you're about to be naked in front of somebody. You know, it's I don't know, if you have any body insecurities, but imagine Clan's no.
I don't like my feet. I don't like my feet.
Born buff.
I love your feet.
No, I hate my feet.
Right?
I also have
having to be stripped down, and then you got to take those socks off.
Oh yeah, that's woo.
The light is on. And
No.
No, but I think that's a great metaphor, Bianca. It's a part of your. It's like a part of your body you don't want to show off.
It's so being naked, pride.
I love being naked because I'm looking good.
Okay.
Oh man.
Just to finish it up, just with her quote, she says, "If you come for me, come for your own mom and those absent." If you come for me, come for your own mama. Sorry, let me say it right. And those absent fathers, come for them too. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents, Caribbean parents, African parents, and everyone else damaged and judged for being black and forced to conform and assimilate to the Western standards of order. So yeah. That's Lauryn.
I mean, well, I don't know. I'm curious to know if it's part of like the African culture before we were brought over on goddamn slave ships to hit your child or whatever. I have no idea.
So there are primary sources from Europeans, like the first Europeans who went to Africa, and they actually criticized the West African group that they were with, who they didn't know who they were with. We don't know who it was. These white folks criticized them for not feeding their kids enough.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing.
but what we don't know, I mean, like that was two groups of, I think it was like two white guys who like didn't really get the culture very much, and it was like a very diverse place, West Africa. So probably a lot of stuff was going on. But it's like I said.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jake.
As I said before, like my parents getting beaten up by their parents, that was accepted back then.
Yeah.
And it's really none of my business to talk about this, but it sort of sounded like Lauryn Hill was saying, like, white people treat us like shit, so that means we're going to treat our kids like shit. And, like, that's sort of, I don't know. I don't know if I agree. I think
Jacob's going to step on a landmine.
Yeah.
I think what she's saying is that it has to do with sort of slavery. You know, it's learned behavior. It's learned from the slave master doing that, sort of how you keep control. And when you learn a lesson, and when you learn that this is how you keep control, you keep that going, and then you pass it on from generation to generation. And
I mean, because that shit worked. Unfortunately, right? That shit worked. It seemed like it, because like I bet, there was a bunch of slaves. I bet if they decided they all wanted to get together and rock the owner or whatever, then they could have, but they were controlled by this, this
right.
terror and violence. Also, they had no. I know there's many things that go into it, so I don't want to simplify it. But I think to them it seemed like, oh, like that shit works. Yeah, let's keep that up throughout the ages.
Yeah. And sometimes I think that's why, and this is a whole nother conversation about traditions. That's why I hate traditions frustrate me, because sometimes we pass stupid things down and we justify it by saying, oh, it's tradition. We've done this dumb shit from the get-go, so that's why we're doing it.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like most traditions we pass on are good, and it's. Oh
my God! Well, we're gonna do this another week. I can tell you, we could have a long conversation about this, because I believe the opposite of that.
But listen, I mean, even
I have a lot of things on the docket already.
But even the stuff we eat, like just the things we get from our parents, that's basically all tradition, and like the vast majority of that stuff helps us survive. And since that's so important to us, I agree with you that like we allow really horrific things to kind of get through the net, and all, like, so the worst shit we do is always based on tradition, and just because it's so important to us. So, yeah.
I don't think all tradition is bad. I never think that all of one thing is bad or good or whatever. So I don't think all tradition is bad. I do think that the majority of traditions stop us from advancing as humans. We can go into this another week, maybe even next week.
There's another week.
I'm telling you, there's a lot that I can talk about when it comes to that, because I have a strong belief on that. So that was our topic for this week, guys. We are going to head into the rough portion of the show. We're going to head into some Rhode Island news. Oh my God. Oh my God. So another week.
Clayon's vein was popping out for Rhode Island news. Get ready.
I'm going to try to stay calm this week.
Yeah,
I'm going to try.
Don't. It makes me smile.
I'm going to try.
Freak out.
So, Gina Raimondo, our lovely governor of Rhode Island, on Tuesday, she had a press meeting with NBC 10. That's our local NBC station here in Rhode Island. And they were talking about sort of reopening schools and the things that they would need to reopen schools. A lot of the schools are saying one of the things that they do need is HVAC systems, which is sort of air conditioning, not air conditioning, but, so that there is airflow. We need to upgrade those systems for the schools so that so that air can flow through the schools, and the kids that are now going to be stuck in a building can have airflow. So this is what she said, some of her quotes. She said, certainly HVAC systems are important, and certainly there are needs to be adequate airflow. the most important thing actually is wearing a mask. So that first statement, yes, I agree that wearing a mask is super duper important. But I believe air circulation is just as important, and one without the other is just stupid. If you have great airflow and you don't have mask, that's idiotic to be in that situation. If you have a mask and not great airflow, that's also that's not smart to be in that situation. So as much as she's right by saying that wearing a mask is important, having sufficient airflow is also as important as a mask. Just as. I don't know if you guys differ in your opinion on that, but
well, the truth is, we know that they're all important, but it's hard to rank them. I mean, we don't know that much about this disease. I'm not.
Yes, we do. Okay.
But I mean, like we know the air. I mean, there's some evidence that air conditioners can make.
It's already getting mad.
He's already pissed.
Yo, because that was the dumbest. I don't understand that statement. What do you mean you can't rank? They're both important. They're both equally important. One without the other doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
With air conditioning, there's evidence that it might make the spread worse. Like we don't know because like there's two. No, I mean if you're not familiar with this, it's debated. It's being debated right now because they don't. The information's not there yet, but there's evidence that central air can spread the disease.
Well, yes, but they're talking about ventilation, like to get the outside air in.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen, it's all important, and it's going to be a disaster opening up schools.
Here's the thing. I think wearing a mask indoors is the most important when you are going to be in and out of a place. Okay, I'm going to the market. Maybe the market doesn't have the highest quality ventilation systems like let's say a hospital or something, it's obviously worse than being outdoors, but everyone's wearing their mask and I'm grabbing my shit and I'm going. I'm not going to spend more than an hour at the market. But something that we do know about this disease or this virus is there's a viral load that just keeps loaded up in the room. And so if there is no ventilation and we are in the classroom with 30 kids for 6 hours, we're eating in there with no masks, we're putting the mask back on afterwards, and we're wearing cloth masks where we know that droplets do come through, and the load is just loading and loading and loading. So by the end of the day, if there is no airflow, then the masks are you almost didn't even need them in the first place.
Bianca, if you're in a room with 30 people, I don't know about kids, but certainly if you're in a room with 30 adults and one or two of them if you're in a room with them, regardless of airflow for like 8 hours, like there's a very high risk of getting that disease, even if there is good.
Well, that's what they try to do.
Exactly. So that's another reason why we shouldn't be sending kids into schools. Like that's a clear other reason why we shouldn't. Because here's the thing. What also doesn't make sense in my brain is how are you going to have kids on with masks for how long is school from start to end?
My school, I think, is going to go, well, it used to be 8 to 2:45. So you expect kids to have on a mask for that long when people over 6 hours, almost 7 hours.
Right. When adults who just walk to the store complain that having their mask on is uncomfortable. And you want to have kids to sit in a space for 8 hours with a mask, and you think they're gonna keep that on. Like, this is all stupid. Gina Raimondo did a great job when this thing all started, when she forced Rhode Island to close down. I thought that was, even though I think at that time I was a little frustrated, but it makes sense because you need to keep people away from each other so that the numbers can go down. That was great. I don't know what happened between that time and right now. I have no idea. Well, I could pinpoint some things. Money, corporations, these sort of...
Leon, she's responding to the fact that parents are going crazy. She's not... You would say...
That's bull. That's bull. That's bull. A lot of parents actually care for their kids. Because parents actually love their children and they want their children to be alive. So
I don't understand how this affects children. Like I tried to ask you this before, and we just bulldozed over it. But how many kids between February and June? How many kids under 14 died of corona in America? Like, guess.
8.
It was 30 kids, and like out of 10,000 people, like children are not dying of this disease.
So are you listening? Okay.
Also, the danger is to the adults working there and to the potential for kids spreading it to their
Okay. The thing that you're forgetting is asymptomatic. Just because you don't show symptoms and because you don't have symptoms doesn't mean you can't spread or give it to someone else. That's what you're forgetting. You're forgetting the fact that kids go to school, they might get it, be asymptomatic, and then they go and they spread it to the adults.
That is one of the risks. The risk is to people like Bianca, and especially Bianca's colleagues who are older and have pre-existing conditions. And so, family members potentially. We don't really know how well it spreads in children. There's a lot of evidence that indicating that under 14, it doesn't spread very fast. That being said, if we go over 10%, like if we have a bigger than 10% rate in any region, like kids should not be in school. But I think it should be linked to the test rates in a community. I mean, this fall is looking like it's going to be a disaster. I mean, the colleges are a really big problem. I'm not saying we're going to be reopening schools in September, October. I think we should be open to it, though, if we're able to keep numbers low.
So West Warwick School Committee estimated that it's about $15 million to sort of reopen schools. That's how much it's going to take to redo all the HVA systems. And this is, I guess, what Gina had to say on that. She said, I had committed a minimum of $50 million extra, and we'll do more if we need to. As soon as the district gets us the bill, we will reimburse them. That's how it's going to work. If the $50 million isn't enough, we'll do our best to find more. And if they have to buy the box fans, buy the box fans. So... You can't tell me that you care about kids and then be like, you know what, guys, you know what we should do? Let's buy 100 box fans. And
if you cared about kids, you would send them back to school. The people we're caring about are the teachers and the family members, because more kids will die.
Kids are not going to die.
No, the under 14 crowd are not going to be badly affected by coronavirus. They might spread it to their parents.
You don't know that for a fact.
Teachers at the schools might be affected, and those are serious problems. But you are not championing the children right now, Clem. You are.
Yes, how am I not championing the children?
No, incorrect. Incorrect.
How?
You are not championing the children. You are sacrificing.
Okay, why? No, I want. Okay, Bianca, one second, Bianca. Please explain to me. You said I'm not champion. Why? You got to be specific. You can't just say this thing and then not give me a reason. What am I doing that's not championship for kids?
Not vulnerable to this disease. Like,
I'm sorry. Wait, repeat that. I didn't hear the first part.
If everyone had the immune system of children of 14, this would not be a problem. It doesn't affect them. However, there is evidence that they can spread it asymptomatically. So, and we should be worried about that, because a lot of young kids I know live with their grandmothers, and they might be at risk, and that is a serious concern. So by closing down schools, you are sacrificing the best interest for the next generation in order to preserve life of older people, which is fine.
Not life of older people, life of kids and everyone. Everyone's life is important, Jake. You hold on one second. I just let you finish. I let you finish, and I'm trying to talk. Do you want to continue, or can I talk? Okay. So when you say I'm champion adults, I'm champion every human. Every human life for me is important. One life is not greater than the other. A child's life isn't greater than an adult's life, than greater than an elder's life. So the reason why I do not want kids to go back to school is because it's a higher chance of them spreading that disease to the adults. It's also a chance of them getting disease. When you put a bunch of kids in a closed building where they're just breathing each other for months on end, you cannot tell me that they're not going to catch disease. The schools that opened, I believe in Mississippi, tried that, and kids already, 9 kids got the disease. So I don't believe that I'm champion a just adult life. Yes, I am champion adults, and I'm also a champion kids. I want kids to still be alive. I still want them to live. I don't care. You're so focused on their education for some reason, and you thinking that trumps life. Like them somehow losing a little bit for a year, maybe the most, somehow is greater than them living, which is just asinine. It doesn't make any sense to me that's what you're championing. You're like, let's get them educated. Okay, but getting them educated is also going to get them killed, and that's safer. Like, that's just stupid, man.
All right, can I say something, please?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think the same. I want Bianca to weigh in.
Okay.
I want the educated to weigh in.
Okay, first of all, I think Jake is right in what he said, that kids aren't necessarily going to die. The majority, maybe all kids in Providence won't die. Let's just say that. Say not one single kid in Providence dies of coronavirus, COVID. But we know that they're going to get COVID. We know for sure they will get COVID. What we don't know is how that will impact their lives, their physical bodies later in life. Okay? So that's number one, right? Number two is that I think what Cleon is saying is them, like, losing out on 1 year of education. They're not going to lose any time of education. We're going to do distance learning, and that's going to be fabulous if we prepare it properly and if we had the time to do so. Also, they are going to be experiencing ridiculous amount of trauma if suddenly their teachers, grandparents, and parents start dying, because those people will die at a larger level. Suddenly, these kids are not going to have parents to go home to. Now, of course, that's being, kind of crazy with it. But, potentially,
Oh, it's true. You're right.
It's not deadly to kids, fine. But don't they need parents? Don't they need their grandparents? Don't they need their teachers to be alive? That's incredibly traumatizing to go through a semester of school where, think about if you were a kid. If I were a kid and I brought this disease, this virus home to my mom, and my mom is a diabetic and she died, I would never forgive myself. I would be in Butler for the rest of my life, knowing that basically I brought home a virus to my mom and it killed her.
Great point, Bianca.
Yeah, I don't want to marginalize that.
Great
that's
point.
A very good point. And I just want to say, I think we're going to go into a disaster this fall. I think colleges are reopening, which they should not do. That's a terrible idea. It's insane. A number of other institutions are acting like business as usual. If you go, my friend just went to Newport. It was like we had to leave immediately because everyone was just mingling around by the beach with no mask in restaurants. I think we're fucked this fall, and I don't think schools will be reopened.
They don't even. My thing is that she doesn't even believe in what she's doing. They're trying to get liability waivers so that the kids can't sue them if they happen to get corona. What the fuck is that, dog? You're trying to so you're putting kids in this situation that might potentially get their family or themselves dead, and then you're trying to protect yourself by having liability waivers. She says she hopes. She says, in her words, I am hoping that Congress will pass it immediately. So she's really hoping that Congress will pass some liability waivers so that she can do whatever she wants to without consequence. That is not what a leader does. You're supposed to actually be thinking about people, not that, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to and the consequences be damn. There should be some consequences with telling people that they have to send their kids to a building to die or get sick. You can't just do that and then be like, but I don't want to, I don't want any, if anything happens, we're not, it's not us, we didn't do it. Yeah. We're not liable for this.
I've been trying to see both sides of the liability waivers, but it sounds like a bad idea. I agree with you, Clam, and it doesn't inspire confidence that she's big up in that. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Wednesday in her briefing, she also she gave a whole plan. She said, and I am not quoting, but what I think I remember her saying is that there will be cases in the schools, and these are our plans. She had 3 different plans, I think, for when the virus gets out. Whether they can contact trace it to one particular person will make the difference between whether they have to quarantine just the class or the full school and things like that. And it's like, we know that cases are going to happen because people are in school. And it like, she's not stupid. Like, she's admitting it. Like, yes, of course. There's no way 100% I'm going to say that people are going to go to school and there's going to be no COVID anymore. Like, she knows that. So what's sad to me is that, like, what happens, you know, when the 1 or 2 cases happen in a school, and, you know, what if those 1 or 2 cases are drastic? You know, what if a kid does die? One kid in the entire Providence dies, or the kid's parent. Like that is just so sad to me that we, like, let's protect everybody, even if there is a small chance. I want to see the statistics and the numbers for the kids who are suicidal, hurting themselves in other ways. I really want to see those numbers and compare them to what the projected numbers of kids getting COVID is, and compare those. I'm really interested in that.
I have some of those numbers if you want me to read them off. So first of all, about the suicidal, a lot of the self-harm stuff, we just can't get numbers on that. It's just impossible. And if we were trying, we would probably do it through the schools. So, like, in normal circumstances, that's hard, and now it's just impossible.
Well,
But,
they
like,
say they did say the national-wide network, I guess the nationwide network of centers that cares for victims of children and abuse service, they say roughly 40,000 fewer children this year compared to last year, and they suggest fewer kids reporting abuse. And they suggest
because the teachers aren't reporting it.
Yeah, and they're suggesting that abuse is down because of the pandemic, and kids aren't.
Well, that's not true. Reporting of it is down.
Yeah,
reporting.
I mean, I've
exactly.
heard, so there was a hospital. The hospitals are reporting an increased rate of kids coming in with horrible abuse, like horrible injuries from abuse.
Where is the story? I guess the part that I always is like, I've been scouring the internet for stories on what's happening, how the pandemic is affecting people, and I've never come across any stories about all these kids going to the hospital because they're being abused.
So the New York Times and 6/19/2020 was basically, I'll just get the quote for you. That's about the poisoning. Basically, in that paper, it said that it was mainly about poisonings and accidents, but they said that they were quoting doctors, and they said that also, in their opinions, like serious cases of abuse were going up while reporting was going down. But I mean,
but that's like an assumption. Once again, that's also like an assumption. There's not.
We're not going to get good numbers about this for a long time.
Right, but to use an assumption as a reason for an act is dumb. I'm sorry. Like, you're using an assumption that they're being abused. There's not actual numbers. You're assuming that they're being abused.
Numbers are. So what we do have good numbers for, because we don't have good numbers for abuse, but what we do have good numbers for is serious poisonings. And serious poisonings usually affect kids under 10. And normally, in a normal year, like 730 kids die from poisoning. And so far, for the length of the coronavirus, poisonings are up 20%. So that means that if that is maintained, basically an additional 146 kids are going to die this year from poisoning alone, on top of the 730 that are already dying on average. And that, like, blows away the numbers of kids who are going to die of COVID, under 14, if you're just comparing under 14 populations. But I don't want to marginalize what Bianca said, because it was super powerful, and, like, adults are at risk here, you know, and I don't want to minimize that. I don't want to, this shit that's going on in the South, what Donald Trump is talking about, all this stuff is insane, and we really need to be much more careful than certainly the federal government is pushing. I mean, Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump.
And I'm a teacher and a lover of children, and I really feel for what you're saying, Jake. Like, I don't like dismiss that at all. Like, I'm glad you brought those numbers. Like, that is terrible, and I wish that we could come up with a way to help that issue without endangering so many people. Like I had said before, why can't we open up schools for just those kids who absolutely need it, whose parents check a box. Yes, I work Monday through Friday, these hours. I cannot watch my kid. He's gonna be home chewing on the damn windowsill or whatever. Like, that's not funny, sorry. And okay, come to school and we will have, see, right now they have this thing where like teachers, if you have an underlying condition or whatever, you can try to opt out. Why can't it be that we do distance learning and there are teachers who opt in? You know, teachers who feel healthy, who feel like they want to help, they opt in. Do you know what I'm saying? As opposed to people trying to opt out.
I mean, it's tough. Like, the big thing, we need federal money. Like, that's the thing. Like, the feds need to help the states and cities with this stuff, and they're just not going to do it until, hopefully, we vote Biden and Kamala in. Because, like, the reason we're doing so much worse than other developed countries, because other developed countries have functioning federal governments. And, like, when Gina Raimondo is hemming and hawing about paying for HVAC systems, that's because we are a poor state with a bunch of poor municipalities who have just gotten a lot poorer because taxes collapsed.
So we don't even, that being said, we don't have the facilities to like, man, like, this is dumb. This is the dumbest thing as an adult that I've ever experienced. I've not, like, I think so little now about humans and adult humans. I don't like the whole, I think the majority of humans are stupid because the way things are being led by people who supposedly went to these colleges and have these degrees, and the ideas that they have to make us safe is, oh my, like, I don't even, I'm trying to be very appropriate. I don't want to talk outside my mouth and be disrespectful towards someone because I disagree with them a lot. Like, I just truly disagree with, but I just think there's so much, but I think there's something just devious about choosing money. And I feel like that's what it's all about. We want to talk around this. It's, in the end, it's about money and trying to normalize things and make it seem like everything is normal, even though it's not. It's about these nonprofit organizations that run on after school kids. It's about, you know how many corporations, how many companies in Rhode Island run off, after school programs and things like that. I just think it's, in the end, it's all about money. It's about trying to pretend like everything's normal, and it's not. And it's just.
It's about like the significant portion of the voters have children. And I mean, I don't know if you know any people with kids, but every single person I know who has kids is very worried about sending their kids back to school, but wants them to be in school as soon as possible. And
yes, that is not. But that's not the. Okay. But wanting someone to be in school as soon as possible is like that statement is
I would like to be in school as soon as possible.
Exactly. You want to be there when it's safe. I understand what those parents are saying. They're not saying, hey, at any minute, even though it's unsafe, get those kids back in. What they're saying is that when it's safe, they want them in as soon as possible. They're not saying, let's just do it right now. I doubt it. I don't give a I don't care what you say, Jake. I doubt that the majority of parents wants their kids to go back to school in this situation. Yes, as much as parents sort of don't want, maybe they want to go and do their jobs and all that stuff. I just don't think that they want like their kids just to go back to school like that in this situation. It doesn't make sense.
Of course, it's a polarized issue, but she's not doing this for money or for corporations. She's doing it because there's a genuine agenda.
She is.
The voters are genuine.
The voters don't want it. The voters are going against it. There's not, majority of people aren't like, yay. The teachers don't want it. The voters don't want it. So that's bullcrap. The voters don't want it. The teachers don't want it. No one wants it.
Every parent I know is
right
desperate for childcare.
Hey, Bianca, you're a parent. Would you send your child back right now if it opened? Any parent who actually loves their child, and if I had a kid, I would not send my kid back to school. Like, I would not send my kid back to school because
it's not a simple decision though. It's hard because
Yeah,
Okay,
I
like
think
right
that's
now,
the point we have to make.
I have a kid who's he's not school age anyway, and if I had to go back to work as a teacher, I would feel like my hand was forced,
Exactly.
and I would have to put him back in school. If I
Right,
could
because
not
your
find-
hand is
In
forced.
schools come the fall has intensified it.
Because your hand is forced, though. Like that's the issue.
Not because
We're
I
forcing hands.
Right, but a lot of parents who are in this position are trying to send their kids back because their hands are forced.
I do. I even have an article here. It says it's entitled it having to quit. So it says parents are faced with an impossible task of trying to figure out how both to work and parent from home. Unfortunately, many of these parents will have to decide between their careers and staying at home to take care of their kids. So yes, I do hear that, a lot of parents are having to sort of deal with that. And I think the solution isn't to send the kids back to school. It's help from the federal government. Like the fact that we used to have, I didn't have it at any point, but some people had that $600 bonus thing on their checks, and like those things help parents and help with childcare. Sending them back in a dangerous situation, that's not what we should be doing. We should be trying to find ways to help their parents by supplementing their rent and things like that. Those are the methods that we should try. And because those methods
Federal help for that. Like unless we get federal help, like
right. So that's the problem. Why is the solution to put kids in danger? Like you're telling me what the problem is, but then your solution is something that has nothing to do with what the problem is.
No, I mean, I don't think there is a good solution to this. I mean, I think, Clan, that at least in Providence, I expect that by September, October, we're going to have spiking rates of COVID-19 in the population. There will be no possibility of any kind of childcare. Like I'm pessimistic about all this stuff. I don't think there is going to be.
I know you seem okay with that, man. You seem okay with the kids just going back and that kids in danger and endangering their family. You seem like that's like.
You're not listening to me. I've said that consistently. I've said if rates remain under 5%, kids should be in school. But like I don't expect that. I expect that we're going to blow that away by the time the weather gets cold. And so, yeah, in that case, I don't think kids should go back to school. However, should we be trying to get kids back in school? Yes. Should we be trying to keep the rate under 5%? Yes. But yeah, I'm pessimistic about this plan. Like I am very, very concerned about the fall for kids and for everybody. Yeah,
all right. So the DNC happened this week, guys, and Rhode Island did its Rhode Island thing. Every state talked about something great about their state. They talked about either like, I forgot what state said they were the first state to allow women to vote. There was all these really cool like things. And then Rhode Island, we came out on the beach with a plate full of fucking calamari and talked about how Rhode Island is the calamari capital or some shit like that.
You didn't know that, Clan? You didn't know that about our
hilarious.
calamari tradition?
Yo, we're so lame, bro. Like we're so, like no one pays attention to us. And the time that we get to be on a national platform, we do something idiotic by being like the little stepbrother that's like, hey guys, look, but we're good at this thing. Like
Our calamari frite is out of control, though. We do it so well.
They could have at least done what people really recognize and be like, hey, the Griffin family lives in a made-up place in Rhode Island. Family.
We had the first factory in the United States in Pawtucket.
Like we could have done all that. Except we didn't. We decided calamari is the best way to show America, and we got made fun of. Oh my god!
Fuck the haters, dude. They should come to Rhode Island and eat our calamari.
Oh my god!
I mean, wear a mask. Be safe. Quarantine yourself, and then get some calamari.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. All right, so are you guys excited about the whole did you guys watch the DNC, any of the DNC stuff, speeches? And
I saw the Michelle speech the next day. That was
yeah,
good.
that's the one I did
Part
see.
of the Michelle speech.
Yeah.
I saw the entire Michelle speech. What'd you say, Bianca?
I'm saying I'm such a loser because I'm just not. I don't know. Like literally, whenever I do have free time, which is like after the baby goes to sleep, I just watch TikTok. It's so bad, but it's just like I just have to like not. I just have to like zone out. I can't be like, oh, like now that the baby, I'm gonna watch the DNC. Like
I hold you up.
Watch TikTok.
I held you up like so high, and then you said you watch TikTok on a regular.
Here I am TikToking.
She's a Chinese spy.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, TikTok, cool. Any interesting videos on TikTok?
Many. There's hilarious.
So many. All the dances. Is that where you're learning all your dances?
TikTok.
Yes.
The convention should be on TikTok. I don't know what they're doing.
I agree.
Doing a dance move and
TikTok
stuff.
so much.
So you guys didn't pay any attention to any of that. I did.
I'm listening to it's like Sports Center. I'm watching like the highlights of it afterwards. Like I heard the George Floyd's family was really good. I heard part of a speech by a woman whose dad died of COVID, which was really good. I just feel like the convention, I'm very into politics. I'm definitely going to vote for Biden, but I feel like the convention is made for people who are different. I don't think it's made for people.
Yeah. I don't get anything from it. I'm not the rah-rah type of guy. I find a lot of things corny. And a lot of the things that they're doing with the whole, like, yeah, I don't know. I did watch the Michelle Obama speech, and she's just wonderful, man. Just a wonderful woman. That speech was amazing. I loved it. I wish people that did this earlier, but I love them just calling out that dude. Just being blunt with it. Like, no, you're horrible. You're terrible. You're not good at this. It just was refreshing. No, it's just like, you're bad. What, this thing that you're pretending to do, we can see through it. You're horrible at it.
I think the fact that the Obamas like kind of quote unquote kept it classy and kind of followed tradition and didn't say anything actually makes it more powerful that they're now coming out and being like, yo, we tried to give this guy a chance, but yo, like we need to stop, you know? I think it's a good move.
I disagree. I fucking hate traditions. So I think you should be able to talk whenever the hell you want. If someone is doing something horrible, you shouldn't have to wait for 4 years until they're done doing all the horrible things before you're able to say, hey, by the way, that was terrible. That's stupid. You should be able to, as an American, be like, hey, that thing was dumb at the time. Tradition, that's what I mean by tradition, man.
I'm not making a moral argument. I'm not saying that it would have been wrong for them to talk shit about Trump from day one. I'm just saying from a political standpoint, from like people who are like trying to make up their mind, it makes it more powerful that they waited. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
Well, guys, we're going to move on to someone that I hope you've made your opinion on already. Mr. Steve Bannon. Oh, I almost called him Biden. Woof, that would have been terrible. Mr. Steve Bannon. I don't know if you guys know this. Bannon was arrested Thursday morning on a luxury yacht after he was indicted for fraud for allegedly creating a fund. What do you call it? What do you call those things?
It was kind of like a PAC, but I'm pretty sure he didn't register it like a PAC. It was basically a political action. But
yeah, it was a fund. It was basically to build the wall. The PAC or whatever it was called. We Build the Wall, and they donated about $25 million, and they said that all of it was going to go straight towards the wall. None of it in anyone's pocket. 100% towards the wall.
Wait, explain who donated. Because the organization did not donate. People, they got donations.
No, yeah, donation from people from all over the United States who wanted to see that wall built. So yeah, it was a donation of millions of dollars, and like I said, they said that it was supposed to all go into this wonderful wall that never happened, and now Mr. Bannon is arrested, which is, it's good sometimes to see people punished for being terrible humans. I felt like for 4 years we have seen people do terrible things and just sort of get away with it over and over. It's good. It's just a little refreshing. Just like it was refreshing to hear like Michelle Obama speak. It's just a little so refreshing to have Steve Bannon arrested. I'm sorry that I'm feeling so good about that and my shoulders are bouncing, but it's just how I feel. The guy is a crook. He's a villain. Like his face tells it. He doesn't even have to talk. You just see his face and you're like, villain. Some people just have that. Yeah, and he has that. Speaking of another villain, guys, I don't know if you see. Do you guys know who the My Pillow guy is? Mr. Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy.
Trump supporter, right?
Yes, he is a Trump supporter. So he went on CNN this week to promote his miracle COVID cure, guys. There's a new cure, so I guess we can reopen schools because we have a miracle cure from Mike Lindell. But it turns out to be a deadly plant poison, this cure that they're promoting for everyone to take to feel better.
But if you just die before it.
Exactly. You won't suffer all of that. Just end your life by taking this deadly plant poison, and, you don't even have to think about corona.
Great.
Fuck life. So, yeah, that's happening in our world, guys. We have weird, crooked, shady men trying to find us the cure. So he's trying to say that he's not going to make any money from this deal, but he definitely is. He's going to make money from this pharmaceutical company making a pretend cure for all of us. So, and this guy has no medical background, mind you. He just makes pillows. Okay. Supposedly he makes comfy pillows.
Pillows are important. If you trust him with your pillow, you should trust him with your vaccine, bro. You have some faith.
That's what I say. It's like Kodak, you trust them with your film. Trust them with your cure. Why are all these just weird, crazy people getting like permission to make cure? I guess anyone can try to make the cure, I guess. But we specifically gave Kodak millions of money to make a cure. And now the My Pillow guy thinks he has the heads up on how to make us feel better. I don't know, bro. I don't know. So we're gonna head into some audio stuff right now. Just a little bit. The first story. So Trey Songz is in the news. Bianca, I don't know if you know that Trey Songz is in the news. So supposedly, but he's not in the news for anything good. He is in the news because he's denying sexual misconduct accusations. There was this young lady, her name is Eliza, and she spoke about an alleged sexual encounter with Trey Songz. She said that he took her to a room, and he took her phone and purse and wouldn't let her have it in the hotel room. She said, and I quote, he kept asking, like, when can I leave? No, I kept asking, like, when can I leave? What time is it? He just, like, wouldn't answer. He would just fucking ignore me. And I'm like, okay. And then he was like, you can leave when you go to my flight. And I was like, okay, when's that? And he wouldn't tell me. So,
Mr. Steal Your Girl.
Yeah. So supposedly in this whole encounter, they had a sexual encounter, which is all on the up and up. It's all consensual. But he told her to go into a bathtub, and he urinated on her without her permission. So this was not a concession.
You have to get the person's permission before you urinate on them.
You probably should. I feel like that should be a universal thing. It's like, if I'm going to pee on you, let me ask you if you're okay with me peeing on you. If you're not, I'm going to refrain from peeing on you. That's what I thought that every male, that's kind of a thing that goes on in every male's head, but not in Trey Songz' head.
Yeah, men too, Clam. And women should also ask consent before peeing.
True.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is all happening, and I normally wouldn't bring up these things. I would actually wait a little bit more because I don't like to just jump on things when these things come out. But the only reason why I brought up the story because I had heard Keke Palmer. I don't know if you know who Keke Palmer is. She's like an actress, singer. She had hosted like a GMA? Good Morning America. Yeah, GMA session or whatever. So Keke Palmer came out a bunch of years ago, and she was talking about an incident that happened with Trey's Songz and how he like disrespected her. And I just wanted to play this audio, just the end of that conversation.
Did you and Trey Songz ever get cool again?
Man, I've not talked to that guy. I've not spoken to that guy.
Was it a misunderstanding? Like, cause you accused him of sexual intimidation? Like,
it wasn't a misunderstanding.
Can you tell the story of what?
I tell my truth, and I just thought it was real interesting that after all those things went down, someone else had something to say. So it wasn't like I don't like when people think that somebody just gonna be saying something just to say it. First of all, I love black people. I love my people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna try to ever tear nobody down, try to tear no black man down. That's not who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what I stand for. That's not what I'm about. So if I say something, I'm saying something for a reason. And I feel like so many times black women say stuff and nobody gives a shit. Excuse my language. Nobody gives a fuck when sometimes black women say something. But somebody of another complexion, somebody of another color, they say something, and then it's like, we're taking it to court.
So my whole thing is that I want us as the sort of the black community, the hip hop community, to be aware, because the same thing kind of happened a bunch of years ago with R. Kelly. A bunch of stories came out about him doing fuck shit, and people kind of like, and we ignored it and we let it sort of fester, and then it became this giant thing where we're like, yo, we should have acted on this way sooner. So with that in mind, and hearing from someone who I feel like is reputable about an encounter that she had with him, and she wasn't even trying to like air him out like that. She chose her words carefully. And so for me, I believe that. And so if I believe someone like a Keke Palmer, I can only believe Elysia, I don't know, maybe I'm saying her name wrong. I can only believe what she says. I don't know her background and she might be into some sketchy shit or whatever, but I feel like trends should matter. If we keep hearing stories about this individual doing these terrible things, we can't just put it off and be like, let's wait. Like, yes, we should wait. I'm not saying let's cancel this guy. I don't think that, but we should be hella aware. Like, we should be on high alert now when it comes to someone like a Trey Songz, just in case. I don't know. What's your opinion on this, Bianca? Did you hear the story this week, or is this the first time hearing about it?
I had not heard about that before, so I'm kind of like, oof. Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. Like, I'm not sure if he's canceled yet, or you know what I mean, but definitely like thinking twice. And I think that yeah, I know that I think the statistic is like under 1% of women lie about sexual abuse or whatever. Like, there are some women who do lie about it for money or whatever. But I believe women when they say that something weird happened. And sometimes that weird thing may not have been the intention of the man, and that type of thing happens. Like, I think of like, actually, just kidding. That was weird. But yeah, I believe them. So I look at them sideways now.
Yeah, patterns for me matter. You know, I feel like this.
The one time, I'm like,
What's your opinion, Jake?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's all right on. I really appreciate, I believe her name is Keke Palmer, right? That she's brought up the fact that Black women are often not believed. And that's outside of the Black community. I mean, if you look at the criminal justice system, if you look at healthcare, all of these, there's a lot of evidence that Black women are treated very, very badly, not believed, you know, in a wide variety of ways. And like you brought up R. Kelly, I mean, there were a lot of people abusing white women and getting away with it in the 90s and 2000s, but I believe that if R. Kelly was videotaped like all those years ago urinating on an underage white girl, I feel pretty strongly he would probably be in prison within the next 6 months, you know?
Right.
And we fucking laughed it off, you know, and the
Yeah.
whole world laughed it off because, in my opinion, because it was a little black girl. So I think it's good she brought that up. I think when we're talking about kind of racial justice and stuff, we have to look at stuff like that as well. And yeah, it's fucked up. I hope it sounds like it's true. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I don't want to even, you know, I don't know if it's true. The only thing I can say is that for me, Keke Palmer is a reputable human being. She doesn't seem like the person that would just make some stuff up. It seems like she had an honest interaction with Trey Songz, and it went awry. And
I think even if it was like, okay, so what if it was like Nicki Minaj who said it, or Cardi B? Would you think differently?
no, I would believe them. Like, I don't think, here's the thing, I think that you have to, if someone comes at you with information, you have to listen to them. I believe that their character goes into how easily you believe them or not. But I also believe in patterns. If someone that I didn't think was reputable came to me and said, hey, Bianca, blah, 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 I wouldn't necessarily believe them if I had a relationship with you, right? But then if another person came to me and said the same thing that that first person said, and then the third person came to me and said the same thing that the first and second person said, I would start to be like, oh, maybe, even though you and I, our interactions have been cool, for me, it's about pattern. It's not about it's not about like, like I said, if I feel like a person's more reputable, of course it's easier for me to believe them. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that if you're not, I'm not going to believe you off the bat. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need more evidence, if that makes sense. I'm going to need, but for me, I feel like I'm not enough evidence where I feel like, oh, let's lock him up, but enough evidence where I'm like, we need to start paying attention. We need to be aware of this guy's actions and how he treats women. I'm not like I said, I'm not at the point where I'm like, let's cancel him, let's lock him up, let's never listen to his music anymore. But that's willing to change if more people come along and there's more stories and it starts getting worse. Oh, I'll get to that point where I'm like, all right, I'm done with Trey Songz. But I'm not at that point yet. But I think we need to be aware. We can't allow people, certain men, to go around and damage our women just because they have a little clout or just because they sing well, or we can't do that. It's not, we have to learn from our mistakes, anyways, that's my 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 cents on that topic. So the next thing that we're going to move on to is called Hot Mic. So Cincinnati Reds announcer Tom Berneman, I believe his name was, he was replaced mid-game after he was caught on a hot mic using a homophobic slur. So what happens, they were on commercial break, they were coming back. Tom is on mic and he says, I'm not even going to say the word he said, but I'm going to quote him. He says, one of the F capitals of the world. And by F, I don't mean like, fuck, not that word. It's the other F word that I can't say as a straight male.
It rhymes with maggot, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. Oof.
But
He
just
says that word in 2020.
this guy, so he says it not knowing that the mic is hot. He realizes it, tries to act like things is normal, realizes that everyone heard that. He comes back, has to make a apology. In the middle of his apology, he calls a home run, finishes it off, and then hands it over to his colleague, and he has to leave. So yeah, and for me, his apology was something like, "This is not who I am as a person." Dog, this is who you are as a person. What do you mean? You're whatever you say when the audience or people aren't around. That's who you are. Like, whoever you are in private with your friends and the words that you use in private with your friends, that's who you are, bruh. Whoever you are on camera, that's the false you. That's the pretend you. What you said when you didn't think the camera and the mic was on, that's actually who you are. You need to, instead of trying to deny that and be like, hey guys, everyone who knows me should know that I'm not like that. Maybe you should look in yourself and be like, hey, why am I using this word? Why do I think this and this? But like, even his apology was just, ugh.
Well, I want to say, not in his defense, but just in general, that I agree with what you're saying, that yes, when the mic is off, you are being yourself. But is he talking to somebody who's also a friend, who they literally, like...
It doesn't matter, Bianca, because... My brother-in-law, you know him. Yes.
You also know him, Jake. He is a very, like, ridiculous person in the things that he says. Like, he tries to be like, he's the type of person, like, when I see him on the street, like, he met me at the park one time and he like laid on the horn, babe, even though there was somebody in front of him who probably was like, oh my God. And I'm telling you, like, babe.
I won't say his name, but
You
your
did.
brother-in-law should not be announcing any major league game.
No, of course not. But what I'm saying is that he says ridiculous things that will push people's buttons, but you know that's not how he actually feels. He just says silly things.
Right, but that is still going to get him. But that doesn't justify. Go ahead, Jake. Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, this guy has a big platform. You really aren't supposed to be, like, when I was a journalist, like you weren't supposed to be hot micing. Like, if you were saying, like, am I all adjusted? Am I good? Like, are we good? Like, you weren't supposed to do that. Like, you were supposed to be professional and be, like, in the zone from the minute your mic is on. If I had ever said anything approaching that on air when I thought my mic was off, like, I'd never work again, you know, and he probably won't either.
And
yeah,
also,
I'm not defending him. I think that's a disgusting word, and I don't think anybody should use it. So let me just start there. I'm just thinking, when he says it's not me, maybe he isn't necessarily homophobic, but he's like my brother-in-law. Let me give is not homophobic by any means.
Right, but it is him though. But okay, but that is who that. I'm not gonna say the person's name, but that is that person. Like, you are who you. Like, that's who he is. Even though you're saying that's not, but your argument.
I'm saying that, like, my brother-in-law would not say it's me being homophobic.
Okay, but would your brother?
Ridiculous.
Would your brother-in-law say one of the effiest capitals in the world? Would your brother say, like, huh?
Possibly. I wouldn't put it past him.
I feel like that's knowing, like, his family members
in front of his sister, who is literally a lesbian. He would do that probably to push her buttons. Like, he does stuff like that all the time. Like,
right, but that's who he is then. That's who he is. He's a joker.
But he's not homophobic, is what I'm trying to say. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think the reason that guy said it was because he knows that none of us had heard about him. Now we all heard about him as the guy who said the homophobic thing. And that was sort of his way of being like, oh my God, I am going to be remembered for one of the worst things I've ever done. Which is, like, a rough thing to be, but, like, you also should be more, like, first of all, you should be more empathetic and not use slurs to describe groups of people. Second of all, if you're going to do that, you should be smart about it and not doing it when literally you have a mic on your lapel, you know? So I don't have any sympathy for it.
Yeah, that's on him, bro. Like, that's you should know better. You're at work. Why are you even talking like that? Come on. We should, like, you would get on, he would be probably the first guy to get on an athlete if they did something like that on the field. Like, come on. You know better. You shouldn't be talking like that at work to begin with. So
no, absolutely. You shouldn't talk like that in general. Yeah. No, there's no room for that F word.
I don't even
in people's vocabulary. But
all
I know is that my brother-in-law uses that word all the time.
When your brother-in-law sees me, he'll be like, "What up, my F word?" Like, he uses it like motherfucker or something. It's like,
it really does.
shouldn't use
One
that
time at dinner with his grandparents, he said, "When is this food coming? I'm hungry as an F word."
Yeah, I don't support that though. I mean, obviously, I
Yo.
can't. But
Yo.
He says things to just, but like I'm saying, like he says things that are just outrageous because he's an outrageous person. But by no means is he homophobic. Is what I'm trying to say.
Here's the
I'm
thing:
not
if this
saying that
announcer was on like the Howard Stern show or something and said that shit, I'd be like, all right, like
I'd still be like, nah.
yeah, it would be disrespectful. I wouldn't support it, but I might see where Bianca was coming from. If you are a baseball announcer, like fucking America's Game, like your job is to be an unoffensive white man who talks like this and explains things. Anything, if you fall from that, you should.
I'm an unoffensive white guy.
Yeah.
Listen, I agree. I agree. I was just adding in. I was just trying to add in a little devil's advocate.
I love how Bianca's trying to dig herself out of whatever hole she thinks she's in. I don't think you're in any holes. No, that's what I'm saying. Listen to my words. I said I don't think you're in any holes. God.
I don't be going in holes.
All right. All right, guys, we're going to move to the audio breakdown portion of the show. And like we talked about earlier in the show, the DNC was this week. There was tons of people speaking. And Camilla got nominated as the vice president-to-be, the vice president-elect. Kamala. I said Camilla, didn't I? Kamala. As a Jamaican male, I should be pronouncing her name right, and I'm over here.
It's not a Jamaican name. I think it's an Indian name. I could be wrong, but
she's both, right? Yeah.
So Jake, Indian people live in Jamaica, and Jamaican and Indian people coexist on the same island. So it's if your parents, forget it. So yes, so people, a lot of conservative white males are having a dick attack about Kamala being the vice president elect. Oh man, they have started doing their typical Republican thing. Let's just take a listen to the audio, and see what they have to say about Camilla.
Some have challenged her racial identity and criticized her for identifying as black when her parents are Jamaican and Indian.
When we talk about, quote, African America, her father is from Jamaica. He isn't from Africa, he's from Jamaica. So she's not really an American black.
Kamala Harris is not an African American. If you dare raise that, you're attacked. But the truth is she's not.
She's not African American. She doesn't have slave blood. She's not down for the struggle.
She's constantly talking how she went to an historically black college. She is adopting Oakland as her hometown, even though she grew up from the age of 7 to the age of 18 in Canada.
Kamala Harris descended from the largest slave owner in Jamaica. Kamala Harris seems to be descended less from the legacy of, let's say, Frederick Douglass than she is from the legacy of the plantation itself.
Right. So, first
very
of all,
self-aware commentary coming from the Republican Party.
I just want to start with the reporter in the beginning who said some people. When you say some people, you mean specifically white conservatives, not some people. Actually, there might be some black people saying this too, but I feel like it's more conservative. On the regards to Jamaicans and Africans are pretty much the same. A lot of people in that, they said that she is not an African American. If you have ever listened to a Bob Marley song, you will know that we represent Africa also. We know that even though we live in Jamaica, we are from the motherland. We're very aware of that. So we are from Africa. We just happen to be Jamaicans. Now, they're correct that she's not an African American, but it doesn't make her less black. The argument they're trying to make is because she's not African American, it makes her somehow less black and not as down.
Obviously, there's like some ambiguity with the term African American, because you couldn't use it to mean just people who recently came from Nigeria or Senegal or something. But like usually when it's used, it means anyone living in America with any long-term African descent. Like
They're just trying to
percent of the time how you're using it. So it's just they're being idiots.
They're just trying to divide the black vote, right? They're trying to pit us against each other. Like this is a thing. Like when we're all black, it's like when it's convenient for them to clump us up in a group, they do that shit. When it's convenient for them to separate us and make us feel like we're not of the same community, they try to do that shit too. So it's whatever of their convenience. That's what they attempt to do, and it's like it's aggravating, and it's not even creative because they're not even using new tactics. Like Rush Limbaugh or Balls or whatever the hell his stupid ass name is. When he says, "Oh, she doesn't have slave blood. She doesn't have slave blood. She's down for the struggle." That's the same thing he said about Barack Obama. He didn't come up with anything new. He just basically copied and pasted on a new fucking black person.
It's also, you could say, arguably, that somebody who has just immigrated from Kenya in the last few years has a different experience than African Americans. But the experience of, it's not like Jamaicans didn't experience slavery. Like African Americans and Afro-Jamaicans, both generally West African folks who experience very traumatic slavery.
And let me say too, it's stupid because none of us living now experienced goddamn slavery. None of us did. I mean, actually, there are some people who were enslaved.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are some people who are enslaved in different ways. But none of us experienced like plantation slavery, right?
Right.
Like, but if you're a black person, no matter what, you've experienced what has come about because of slavery and, you know, civil rights stuff and all that stuff. So it doesn't matter if you didn't experience, if someone in your lineage didn't experience slavery, but because of the color of your skin, you're still having the black experience. So it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
And one of the dudes, he says, she is not African American, and if you dare raise that, you are attacked. Yes, because that's racist. Of course you're attacked, bro. Why wouldn't you be attacked? Why do you think it's okay to say whatever racist thing that's on your mind and no one has the right to correct you or tell you that you're bullshitting? Like,
I mean, am I not European American because my mom's from Milwaukee and not Germany? It's stupid, you know?
You don't get this great divide. It's like you don't actually have anything negative to say, so you try to you're like, what can we come up with? Oh, she's not black enough. Yes, that's it. Look at her, she's lighter. Her mom is Indian. I mean, her dad's Jamaican. That's it. Yes, Indian Jamaican, not black. They're just so simplistic the way they think about like the black culture and the fact that they're talking about the black culture and they know nothing about it. How are you talking so much about enslavement and Jamaican history and who's enslaved to what when you know nothing even about the American black culture?
I mean, the fact they brought up that she's descended from a slave owner and that makes her like not able to claim being African American, it just shows such a horrific just a complete
majority. A lot of Americans are descended for a lot of Black Americans have some of that in there.
Americans have some.
Because guess what the slave owners were doing? They were raping the black women.
It goes both ways. In a lot of southern states, if you're a white person who traces your roots to North Carolina, Louisiana, states like this, you have a lot of African heritage. So it was going both. I mean, like people from the South and other parts of the Americas mixed a lot. You know, it's almost every African American has some European in them, and a significant portion of white Americans from the South have African in them as well.
Yeah, I just hate, I guess, when they use these cheap tactics to separate Black Americans, and it aggravates me because as a Jamaican, I do recognize that I'm from a different culture, right? Culturally, I'm different from American Blacks, but I still recognize that I am a Black man. I deal with the same things that every Black American male has to deal with. I might go home and eat some ackee and saltfish, some kalaloo and things like that. But in the end, I get treated the same way. So I'm Black. My skin is pigmented. My nose is wide. My lips are full. I am a Black man. I am descendant from Africans, maybe mixed with other things. So I'm freaking Jamaican and we are a melting pot also. But I'm a Black man, and for you to sit there and try to take that away from me right now because you find it convenient pisses me off. Stop playing with my culture. Stop playing with our people like that. It just pisses me. Like, who the fuck are you to even imply that someone isn't of their culture when you know nothing about it. It's aggravating.
Well,
I mean, listen, you can tell that they haven't spoken to black people and they're not trying to speak to black people now. Like all those people are messaging to conservative white folks and basically.
No, I think that specifically is a message for black people. Because
no, I don't think black people are listening to Rush Limbaugh like that. I think he knows that.
Right, but why? But why would he be trying to convince white conservative that she's not black enough when white conservatives don't want the most black person? That's not who they drive towards. If you tell a conservative that a person is really black, they don't want that. They want someone who's a little bit more palatable. So that doesn't make sense in my brain that you would be trying to convince, because here's the thing. I think people listen. Not me, I'm not a hate listener, but some people, a lot of their arguments, like they watch Fox because, not necessarily because they believe it, but they want to hear what people from Fox News is saying. So some people might listen to Rush Limbaugh because they want to hear what the other side is saying. And I think for him, it's a nice way to sort of talk to that. Just like if you were a conservative, if you're a liberal news organization, you're still going to say some points that to try to touch a Republican supporter. Does that make sense? Am I talking in circles?
No, yeah. I mean, if I was a conservative commentator, I wouldn't be making all these like weird racist statements about how Kamala isn't really black. I don't know why they're doing it.
I feel like that's what I mean. I feel like it's towards black people. It's trying to fuel a divide. Because I don't see.
Well, can I tell you that this is the stupidest thing ever? Because Kamala has done a lot of things that they could easily be talking about that would make her not favorable to black people. Like, it's like,
but they believe
why
those things.
Choose her race when you could be talking about her stance on jailing people and everything
believe
else.
in that. They don't want that. But that's not. But if you think, why would they? Why would they bring up that point when she stands with what they believe? Like they're not anti locking up a bunch of people. So why would you bring that up as a negative if that's what you want to do also? So they don't have
wishful thinking. There's a lot of. I mean, I'm worried that the same thing that happened last time will happen this time, which is that low propensity Democratic voters won't vote in the numbers they did for Obama. And there's a lot of low propensity voters who did not come out for Hillary Clinton, but like young black folks was one of those groups. They came out much heavier for Obama than they did for Hillary.
Stop blaming black people. It was white women.
I'm not blaming black people. I'm not saying
it was white women. White women white women voted for Trump,
100%.
even though he's a misogynistic asshole. It wasn't like I'm sick. It's not.
I'm just saying that like voting turnout among typical Democratic voters of all races was lower with Hillary than it was with Obama.
Right. In states, people aren't trying to prevent white women from voting. Right. They constantly trying to prevent minorities from voting. They will stifle the system.
That's incorrect. Republicans are trying to prevent liberal white demographics from voting. Basically, they're trying to depress the vote among black people.
Right. But when they try to fuck up polling places, they don't do it in white communities. They do it in minority communities.
They do it in urban communities.
Right. So if you're trying to stop white people from voting, then you would fuck up their shit. Why does it seem like you always fuck up it in minority communities? You don't want minorities.
When we're talking about voter suppression done by Republicans, they're very good at. I mean, they just do it to black people writ large, and I don't want to minimize that. Voter suppression affects the black community very, very badly, and in a lot of cases disproportionately. But when you look at this orchestrated campaign by Republicans to basically shut down polling centers, places like that, they're targeting liberal white areas just as much because they don't care. They just don't want liberal Democrats. But yeah, I take your point.
My point when people make the argument and they chastise the black people or whatever for not voting, they never seem to add in there all the loops and all the hurdles that we have to jump to just to normally vote like everyone else. And the majority of people in America aren't jumping through all the hoops and all the shit that they have us jump through just to fucking vote. Like
100%. And also Hillary, I don't think earned the vote. So there's that too. I think Obama probably earned the black vote more than Hillary did. there is a hope among liberals that Kamala will boost the vote among a number of groups, including African Americans. And I think that Rush Limbaugh, all these people, they're just doing wishful thinking, and they're saying that's not going to happen for this reason, and they're sounding like idiots. Because, like Bianca said, there's a lot of reasons that young Black folks, progressive people, a number of people might not love Kamala. The fact that she's half Indian or part Indian, part Jamaica has nothing to do with that, you know, and they sound like idiots. So.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna head on to something else. This is Convince Me. This week, we're gonna do it a little different. We're gonna try to convince Bianca. Bianca, you're gonna be our judge this week. And Jake and I, we're gonna try to convince you of these two things. Jake, do you wanna be for or against?
I'll be positive today.
You be positive, I'm gonna be negative. All right, the first thing that we're gonna try to convince Bianca is there's Dunkaroo-flavored beer. Do you guys know what Dunkaroo is? That little thing where you dip them and you eat. It's like those like.
Yeah, bring me back to the 90s. I love that.
Right. So I'm gonna try to convince Bianca why she should buy a case of Dunkaroo-flavored beer, and Jake, you're gonna try to convince her why you shouldn't. So you want to start, Jake?
I thought he was for.
Oh, you were for.
Positive, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm against. You're for. Can you please tell Bianca why she should buy some Dunkaroo beer?
All right, Bianca. I love beer. I love Dunkaroos. Therefore, Dunkaroo beer will have a multiplying effect. You know how sometimes you'll get like do you like beer, Bianca?
No.
Not really the target audience. Sometimes you get like a nice oatmeal stout. It has kind of like a breakfasty feel to it. However, a hard day of work, what does a person want other than a nice cold beer, just some fresh Dunkaroos? You know, now while you're watching your MSNBC and pounding down, while you're eating your Dunkaroos, you can wash it down with that same creamy, crispy.
Bianca, you don't like beer. First of all, you don't like beer, so why are you gonna like sweet ass beer? I think it's stupid. Like, this is what I'm saying. If you are gonna try beer, I would say try something like a stout or something like that, rather than go straight to Dunkaroo beer. It's just too much sugar in it, and it was canceled for a reason, right? It's an old snack. You dumped it into sugar and you ate it. It just doesn't feel like it's going to translate well into like a carbonated beverage. It seems like a whole bunch of sugar that you're going to be drinking, and the flavor might be off. I'm not a fan of sweet beer, Bianca. I don't think you're a fan of sweet beer. You don't seem like the sweet beer fan. Did I convince you?
I don't know. She looks like a sweet beer fan to me.
Bianca, you don't want your beer full of sugar. You can barely take it as it is. Imagine that plus sugar and whatever chemical flavor.
It sounds like it probably is yak, but also I'm intrigued enough to try it. Like, I want to try it. Like, just because
I think that's a win for this guy, right?
I think it is a win for you.
Yeah, it's a win, but like I'll probably throw up.
It sounds disgusting.
So yeah, there is. It's only available in Texas, though. So
of course,
you have to live in Texas to get some Dunkaroo-flavored beer. The next thing we're going to try to convince Bianca. We're going to try to convince Bianca to see The Matrix 4. So they're remaking, or not remaking. They're making a new Matrix, and it's going to be The Matrix 4. So I'm going to try to convince Bianca why you shouldn't see The Matrix 4, Bianca. So first of all, Bianca, I don't think you should see this movie. I think it ended well with 3. After the second one, I was already tired of The Matrix. And then they added a third one. I was like, eh. Like, the fourth one's just going to be a stretch. I think it's going to be way too much. Keanu Reeves is old. I don't feel like he's going to be able to do the same moves he's able to do. Did you see the old Matrix and all the flipping and kicking and stuff? Like, he's not going to be able to do that. This is going to be a CGI Keanu Reeves. Like, if you want to see that, then go watch the Matrix animated movie. Or might as well just make a Matrix animated movie rather than, like, have Keanu pretend to kick stuff. And just to say, he made a bunch of John Wick movies, but I did hear that the last John Wick, he did not look so well in the fighting scenes. So I don't think it's going to translate when he has to do Matrix, which is more fighting scenes. So I think you should stay away from this awful movie, Bianca.
All right. Fuck what you heard. The Matrix is an American Classic, an American institution. I want them to keep pumping out Matrix movies every 5 years until we fall as a nation. Keanu Reeves, don't listen to Clan. They're going to hook him up to the wires and do that weird puppet shit and make him look good dodging bullets and stuff. Keanu can do no wrong. The Matrix 4 will be lit. I'm watching it in theaters, even if I get the vid.
All right, Bianca, you heard for both of us. Are you convinced to see The Matrix, or did I convince you that you probably shouldn't see it?
Yeah, I'm definitely not interested in.
Boom.
That's a win for Clan. Keanu Reeves is a fossil at this point.
Your baby disagrees with you. He's crying because his mom is so wrong.
Yeah.
His mom is right. He's celebrating. That's a celebrating yelp. He's like, yeah, mom, yeah, woo.
Yeah. No, that sounds horrible. Just like the remake of, what did we talk about, Fresh Prince last?
Yeah.
God, people just need to give things up. Like, let's come up with some new ideas if possible, and like, let's move on with our lives, please. Let's stop. Let's let Keanu Reeves, live in peace at this point.
Did you know both Will Smith and Leonardo DiCaprio they were trying to get them to be the lead in The Matrix?
Yeah, it would have been sick if it was Will.
I forget who the woman was. There was
Will always says he regrets not taking that movie. He's always like, dang, he for some reason he's like, damn, I should have took The Matrix. That would have been sick to see Will Smith in The Matrix.
Dude, Will Smith turned it down for Wild Wild West.
Yes!
That interview, and he was just like, yeah, I kind of fucked up.
That's hilarious.
At least he can admit that.
Oh,
At least he can admit that, to be able to be like, yo, I totally...
On paper, freaking The Matrix was weird, and you're like, this is not going anywhere.
That's what he said. He said the pitch just sounded weird. And he was like, there's gonna be this new technology that we're making up right now and that we're gonna use. And he's like, this just doesn't, I'm gonna go do this.
Wild Wild West.
Yes.
That sounds more like People Speed.
I'm gonna do that movie with the West and the futuristic, non-futuristic thing. Like, that movie was weird.
Wild Wild West had a Will Smith rap song to go with the soundtrack.
Yes. Wow. Well, that was the era of Will Smith making a rap song to all his movies. Like, all his movies had a rap song.
Imagine if Matrix had a Will Smith.
Yes. Yo, flipping the bullets and dodging the bullets and hitting the bullets, and no bullets ever can touch me. Like, he'll be sick.
No swearing, though.
Huh?
No swearing in the song.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. He'd be dodging the bullets appropriately. The most even kill way.
Dodge these bullets.
Yeah.
Excuse me, bullet.
Bullets. I can see why you should exist, bullets, but I respectfully deny you. All right. Well, guys, we're nearing the end of the show. But before we go, every week, guys, like to convince Bianca that birds are cool. I don't know if you guys know this. Bianca does not like birds. She hates them. She wants to burn all birds. If she sees a nest, she specifically climbs up the tree and burns said nest. So if you see Bianca and you see a tree on fire, there was a nest inside of it, and she burned it. So the bird today, Bianca, that we're going to talk about is the bassin thrush. That's the name, the bassin thrush. That's it, bassin thrush. It's called the Australian bassin thrush. And the reason why I'm picking this bird, Bianca, because this bird, you want to know how this bird hunts? It hunts by farting into holes. Yes, you heard that right, Bianca. This bird goes on a hunting spree by farting into holes so that the insects emerge from said holes. This is a clever bird who's using what God gave him or her to find his food, Bianca. Like you can't think of something more inspiring. Like, imagine you have nothing to your name, all right? The only thing you have is your saliva, your bodily fluids, and you're like, yo, you know what? You know how I'm gonna get this beast? You know how I'm gonna get this turkey? You know how I'm gonna get this piece of chicken? I'm gonna fart on it, right? And it worked out. The fact that you connected that you farting on a bug could somehow knock it out and you can get it, That is a smart animal, Bianca. You can't
I just want to say that you are doing such a bad job that you're making me hate birds. That's fucking gross.
It's so true. That's so gross. He gives all the bugs pink eye, then he's gonna eat it. Like,
you're not thinking about the genius to even get to the point where you're like, yo, if I fart on these bugs, it's easier for me to eat them. Like, what do you mean?
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. There's nothing about that makes me like birds more. I might hate them more. I do think that it's an interesting technique. Do I think it's
so wait, you're telling me
anything like that? No.
So you're telling me, okay, you too, Jake. You're telling me if you could fart on an animal and knock it out, you wouldn't use that as a hunting technique to hunt down animals or whatever?
I actually am a hunter. I hunt deer, and I have never once used my flatulence to take deer.
But if you could, Jake.
I still use a crossbow, bro. I think I still shoot it or use a crossbow.
Yeah,
think about it.
You can't just poop. You can't just like fart whenever you feel like it. And if you do, probably a little poo is coming out.
But this is what you do. You save it up until you eat something that gets you gassy because you're not going hunting, right? Get some beans or whatever, some broccoli, whatever it gets you all. You go hunting knowing that you just ate some beans and broccoli. You already got that prepared. So by the time you set up everything, you got the gas bubbling. Bloop, 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 bloop. All you have to do is just set the trap. You find that animal. Maybe it's like a one of those walk by type joints, right? You see the animal. You check out where the wind is going. You go, bah, let one out. Let the wind carry it towards the animal. Boom, animal dead. I'm just saying, if I could do that, I would use it every day. Every single day, I'd be farting on animals.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I could also just go to a market. But if I were stuck in the wild, yes, that would be a good technique. But the fact that birds do it does not help me like them at all.
Okay, cool. All right, Bianca, that's cool. That's cool. You weren't convinced this week, but I'm sure next week I'll get you. I'll have another bird fact for you, and I'll definitely get you on that one. Thank you guys out there. Thank you very much for watching and enjoying the show. We appreciate all 7 of you. Tell a friend. Be like, hey, guys, there's these group of people, and they talk shit. And sometimes Cleon yells at one of them, and his veins come out. But they have interesting conversation right here.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot that I had that vein until I started doing this show.
Yep, it's there.
Totally forgot about it, but it comes out. But yeah, please tell a friend, man. We're trying to grow this channel as much as we can. We're trying to get better every week. So please let people know that we out here, especially you Rhode Islanders, like we out here representing, you know what I mean? And remember, your opinion doesn't mean shit unless there's facts to back it up.
Oh.
Join us next week. This has been Coffee Milk. Bye.
Bye, guys.
It's only my opinion. Coffee Milk.